Okay, and then in the car ride back to the mansion from the mission and then going into the mansion, people started to really talk about Rob in a way that they haven't before.
That's why I thought that, like, he was a goner, because I feel like usually the person that gets talked about on the way back from the mission ends up either being voted out or very close to being voted out.
Just from, like, sheer recency bias
Yes.
of, like, the last one talked about.
Exactly.
And Tara brought it up earlier to Natalie, but then it felt like it might have gained more weight after it, but Rob was still able to push it away.
I don't
with the
know
boys, at least.
how. His defenses aren't even that good. He's just like, no.
Yeah, I think it is really, as much as I'm like, I feel like in this episode it felt like a failing of the faithfuls, a less than a succeeding of Rob. I do think something he's doing really well is the relationships, because they do trust him so much. They just take his word for it. They just go, oh yeah, you're right.
You know, and I think a good point too is that if you're playing emotionally, the person that you vote out is also leaving you. So if
They want him there, he's fun.
So if it's someone that you're like on the cusp and you don't know, but you really want them around and you want them like by your side throughout the experience, then that could obviously be a tipping point.
I found it interesting too in the castle discussions that for a while it seemed like they broke into the boys all talking together, and that was hard for it to get anywhere because both the traitors are in that conversation. So Johnny and Mark spent a lot of their time just being steered away from Eric and Rob purely because they were right in front of them. So those two were able to bring up Natalie and really get that in their heads, I think.
They were, and then honestly, that would explain why Johnny wasn't super convinced when Tara spoke to him.
Yeah, because then Johnny goes to Tara and he starts to say Natalie, and she's like, I don't want to vote against her, and also tells him the Rob plan, and he does seem interested. Like, he's like, I could see it, but he isn't fully convinced, and it might be because he had just been so primed by Eric and Rob to go after Natalie.
You know, I think that is what got into Tara's head at the Roundtable, because she didn't want to disappoint Johnny and go against what he's saying, but also she formed this alliance with Natalie, and she's the one who brought it up in the first place.
Totally. I also think that she felt like I said so much at the last Roundtable, and I just don't want to be the one to lead it. So I think she just decided, like, well, I'm not going to lead it, and Natalie will, and then I'll be able to just vote for Rob. And then that made Natalie so suspicious of her that everything turned on its head.
Yeah, because if I was Natalie and Tara came to me and was like, I think it's Rob, I really think it's Rob, and then we go to the Roundtable and I'm like, okay, I think it's Rob, and so does Tara, and Tara's like, I'm not sure. Like, what are you talking about? I would be like, oh my God, it's Tara. She's trying to throw me under the bus.
It was so frustrating at the Roundtable because I wanted Natalie to have a better defense. She did not have a great defense, but I understood why. Like, I understood why she flipped from Rob to Tara, which I wish she hadn't, but I understood why, because yeah, you would feel that way if you got there and someone just completely wouldn't back you up at all. You're like, did I get played? Like, she just, I think, felt in that moment like, oh, Tara was just feeding Rob to me, and now I think it's Tara. And instead of acting out of self-preservation, I feel like she was acting out of, I really want to get a traitor. She was just so wrong.
See, I think that if Tara didn't have such an emotional reaction, she would have been the one voted out next episode. I really do.
I also felt like this would be a really good place for the women to point out that all of the banished traitors have been women. So Natalie and Tara could have come together on, don't we think there's probably a guy? Because they seem to all think that there's probably 2 traitors left, that someone was recruited. So the odds of there being 5 female traitors, like, come on.
Yeah, there hasn't been a single conversation that we've seen about it, which is really weird to me. Like, I understand the notion that maybe they think all of the traitors were women to, you know, throw everybody off, but they have not even discussed the possibility.
Someone brought it up like once, like, and 2 episodes ago, and then it was used against Steven, and then the moment it wasn't Steven, they were like, oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not Steven, it can't be a man.
Because I think they're just so convinced well, I was gonna say they're so convinced that all of these remaining men are faithful, but not Johnny. People were really on to Johnny for a while.
And then they stopped with that too, which is again something I don't understand, because I honestly feel like Johnny is one of the people who's been flying under the radar, and they're all talking about how they need to start looking at the people who fly under the radar. But Johnny didn't come up this week, and I don't think Maura has ever come up.
I don't think
She's
Maura's
the
ever
most
come up.
under
Maura
the
and
radar.
Mark have never come up.
And you know, she made good points at the beginning of the episode when she was like, "Why am I still here? You know, I'm not good at the missions." And I'm like,
I wanted her to keep going along that path. Like, yes, girl, why do you think you're still here? Because she said that, and then she never led it to a person. She wasn't like, so it must be this person. Which Natalie, that's how Natalie came to agree with Tara, was by being like, I feel close to Rob, and I feel like he's keeping me here.
see, but if I was a faithful, I would think that would make me believe that Maura might be a traitor, because why else would she be there? Yes, like someone could be protecting her. Yes, somebody could be protecting her, but also
She could be protecting
she
herself.
could just be protecting herself. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But no one has looked at her or Mark, I don't think.
No, yeah, I think. Didn't you say that someone a while back was like, it could be someone like Mark,
Yeah,
but then nobody
and
ever
that's all they
seriously
said.
considered.
Yeah.
It seems like no one believes like it's even possible that it could be Mark, and it's not.
And it's not.
So they're right, but
I don't know why my, not frustrations are with Mark, but I'm like counting on Mark to be the one who makes or breaks this for the faithfuls, because it feels like with the way the pairs are and the numbers are, that if he gets there, he can get, if he figures out that it's Rob or Eric, he can get other people on board because he can get Tara and Johnny together. I think they will listen to Eric. But if he doesn't get there and he keeps thinking that Rob and Eric are loyal to him, then they have everybody. They outnumber everyone else. So it feels like everything depends on what Mark ends up believing.
all right. So the final vote, literally everyone except for Natalie voted for Natalie. Natalie
Natalie
voted
voted
for
for
Tara.
I can't believe no one voted for Rob.
Not a single person voted for Rob. At any time that his name was kind of thrown around, though, Maura threw it off of him.
Yeah.
So it did end up being Natalie who went home. Mark's reaction was very emotional.
He was stunned, I feel like. Everyone got up and he was just sitting at the table.
He couldn't move, and he like, did he throw his nameplate?
He threw his nameplate down and was mad. He seemed angry.
I would definitely never think he was a traitor after that. Like, that felt like a very emotional, real reaction.
I agree. And then he seemed to think that Tara's bawling and being like, I just want to go home at this point was also very real, which I feel like it is. She's, I don't think could be that great of an actress, but it could be something suspicious if you thought someone was trying to have a large emotional reaction. But Mark seemed to think, no, I was there hugging her. That was so real. She was just so upset that Natalie wasn't a traitor.
Yeah, and I think that the tears could be real even if Tara was a traitor, because again, this is a game about deceit, and she's still deceiving someone who trusted her.
Yeah. I think they can tell. I feel like they should be able to tell that Tara just doesn't have it in her. I also think that was the most crushing banishment for these faithfuls, because they were so certain. Like, the vote did turn to every single person voted for Natalie except for Natalie, that it felt like it crushed Tara. So that's why it felt so real, because it was like Mark being pissed that they were wrong, Tara being pissed that they were wrong, and not just that she was voting Natalie out.